Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Global Moment Gallery Exhibition. My name is Terry Moikamba from a very cold Nairobi, and I'm so delighted to welcome you here for the Global Moment Gallery Exhibition with our fellow photojournalists. And today we have presentations from Brazil, Eritrea, Indonesia, and Zambia. Now, just in case you're wondering who we are a group of 73 photojournalists from 55 countries spanning 16 time zones. And we were individually selected by the US Embassy in each of our respective home countries. Now, we participated and we continue to participate in a very special initiative called A Global Moment in Time, which is part of the US Department of State's International Visitor Leadership Program. We call it the IVLP, and the IVLP is now in its 82nd year, and our group of photojournalists is just one of the 3 Global Moment projects right now. Now, the Global Moment in Time is the first ever IVLP program spanning a year. We've had a virtual component in the fall of 2021, and we still plan on having an in-person program next fall. We're really hoping and praying. And in between, we have the Bridge program, which allows us to continue to grow and also deepen our relationships with each other and also a wider audience. Now, the Global Moment Gallery exhibitions are also part of that. They've provided an opportunity for us to connect with each other through our work, and we really welcome you here. And now, for some housekeeping rules, we have our bridge builders, Brittany and Bonnie. So over to you, Brittany.
Thank you so much, Terry. In addition to being our moderator for today's Global Moment Gallery, Terry is a media professional and a lawyer who is driven to expand digital platforms in Africa. She does media training, photography, and is a stellar storyteller from Nairobi, Kenya. We are so glad to have her on the team. I am Brittany Lincoln, along with my colleague Bonnie Beard. We had the pleasure of being the bridge builders over the course of this year for this impressive group of photojournalists. As the seasons shift in weather, as well as the big issues impacting our lives, COVID sometimes becomes an afterthought. Today, we step back to some of the early days of life during the pandemic when photojournalists around the globe were covering this novel virus in harm's way without the protection and information we have today. We will get to see the photos from the front lines and hear the stories behind them. We owe so much to our journalists and photojournalists, and we honor your work and your sacrifice. As we start today, I also will mention that though this is a U.S. Department of State sponsored program, the views expressed by the IVLP participants in this exhibition are their own and not necessarily those of the U.S. government. Thank you so much. Over to you, Bonnie.
Thank you, Brittany, and thank you, Terry. And thank you all for coming. This is so exciting. I love the opportunity to see where all these faces and names are from. I'm going to ask you, while I give a few housekeeping tips, to throw into chat where you're signing in from, what country, what city. I see a few personal friends. This is great. It's wonderful. We are really excited. I've previewed some of these photos, heard these people talk. You're really going to be impressed. They're really amazing. So we really welcome you all. And Terry, I pass it back to you.
Thank you so much. All right, so today it's going to be such an exciting exhibition, like Bonnie just said. For example, or rather, let's just start. Mauro. Mauro Pimentel is a staff journalist at AFP based in Rio in Brazil. And before that, he was a freelance photojournalist for Associated Press and many others. Now, Mauro has covered Nelson Mandela's funeral and also the Rio 2016 Paralympic Games and the long protest uprising against corruption in Brazil and so many others. Now, since the first case of COVID-19, he has focused on covering stories that show the impact of the pandemic on the Brazilian society in relation with other major social and also environmental issues. So, well, here you go, Mauro. Welcome.
Hi, how are you? Thanks to invite me to be here. And during the COVID pandemic, we still have the deforestation happening. we still have violence issues and many more. So I try to do a selection that shows that the other problems, the other issues we have, they don't stop. They didn't had a pause while we have a pandemic. For example, this first photo is completing 1 year tomorrow. It's a scene of that. It's not confirmed, but so far I know 2 people were killed in that living room. It's part of the deadliest police operation in Rio history. 28 people were killed in like a morning inside a favela here in Rio de Janeiro. And this is the living room of one of the main houses. I had the chance to get inside during the shooting. The bullets were still, flying when I was there, because of some residents. They just want to show what was happening to media, and I was lucky enough, not lucky to show, but lucky enough to have their trust. And that thing was in the peak of the pandemic here. Like we are having like thousands of people dying. So those other situations, the other issues we have in Brazil, they're still happening, and that mix, as I said, and we had the really COVID related stories like that. Those that couple, they become everybody was calling them the Copacabana, the beach that is internationally famous, the Copacabana astronauts. It's a couple that they have some lung issues, so they are really afraid of COVID. And one of them had the idea to do like something funny, just to because we were the only story we had every day in the news was just people die and funerals and the cemeteries opening, digging space for more people. And they said that they were like dying from inside, stay at home all the time. So they had that idea to do like a astronaut thing, and I follow their day. Like we keep with them a whole day, showing the whole process of preparing the clothes, getting ready. They live very far from Copacabana, so and they become like an icon of some kind of resistance, to look in an optimistic way during a really hard time. Can you move on? And as I said, that makes like it's one of the first groups here in Rio de Janeiro that got the vaccine. It was the indigenous populations. Even with the big problem they are facing now with our actual government, that it's not friendly for them, Can you go ahead? And how the pandemic impacts different parts of the society, like the indigenous that are all the time struggling for land and etc. And that guy, for example, he's a guy that it's in really the beginning of the pandemic, like 1-2 months after we declared the pandemic, who declared the pandemic. And they are still, no, they just stopped to do it but they took like 2 years do those cleaning Santa Marta. It's a favela here in the south zone of Brazil, Rio. It's a very rich area of Rio de Janeiro. And beginning, they try to ask the government to help to do those task force to clean the area. Nobody cares, so they take on their own and they do it for 2 years. It's a resident, it's a local activist that made contact with people in China, US to learn how to use the chemicals, to prepare how to get ready, like to protect himself. And he make like a group that in some times of the pandemic, they had more than 30 people every day, almost every day, cleaning some parts of the favela. And the numbers of COVID inside that favela for a long time were really lower than other areas of Rio. Like, so it's a part of a series we did of like heroes of pandemic. We did it internationally, and that guy is the one we chose here to show in Brazil. And that makes, I always mentioning, this eviction that happened in the middle of the pandemic, you know. So it's like I said, like the other problems of Brazil are still ongoing during a COVID pandemic. Next, please. And other one more to COVID. It's one of the first elderly that had the chance to get the vaccine at home. You know, it's the beginning of the vaccine after the government tried to push back the vaccine access a lot in Brazil. It's the beginning of people having access for free and all over the country. We still have a lot of problems, but they are celebrating after he got his first jab inside his house. It's the group that came to his house to give the vaccine. And yeah, the Christ, because I'm here in Rio, it's a national icon for us. Like, it's really in the beginning, like they are calling for people to wear masks, and something that our government never recommend intentionally. We had a big problem here with fake news and how the government treats the pandemic. You know, you have mixed signs all the time. So it was a campaign from public society calling to wear masks. Yeah, and it's sorry if I'm repeating myself, but yeah, but it's what I want to show. This is in Amazonia. It's a illegal mining camp, and that's it. Those things are still happening. Like, the COVID doesn't stop the other problems of Brazil. Those guys came from Bahia. We were in Pará, which is very far from Bahia. They were working in illegal gold mining. And I think it's the last one, right? It's the only one I chose to show like a cemetery, because it's the opposite of what we're expecting. They are not burying. They are removing people that were already dead and putting in tiny boxes to open space to more people, because it was really in the moment that we have a lot of people dying every day. So I think it was a scene that was very hard for me. Yeah, sorry, I think I had my time, right? 7 minutes.
Well, thank you so much, Mauro. I mean, I think I speak for everyone when I say that your pictures are so powerful, and it puts into perspective, I mean, the period that we had the pandemic, that it was not just the pandemic going on. There were so many other things that were happening. And thank you so much for sharing very emotional and powerful pictures as well. I think I would like to probably just ask you one question. From all the pictures that you have taken, have you had pictures going viral, and how has that made you feel about your work?
Viral, you mean like social media?
Yes.
Like that? The astronauts become very viral because it was a moment that everybody was, not everybody, but a lot of people was just staying in house. We don't have much stories in streets. So it's one of the first stories I did, that I was meeting someone, going to their houses, and at the same moment was in a moment we don't have vaccines, we don't have we didn't know anything about how to protect themselves. We were in that really crazy moment that we were cleaning, taking a bath with alcohol, hand sanitizers almost, because we don't have any clue of how to protect. So we are overreacting in a way to keep my mind in peace, to go back home. So, and they gave us access, they trust us. We had a lot of, we did a big deal with them. Like we were inside their houses, but we are not like 2-3 meters of each other. like you see in the photo, I'm quite far from them. I'm almost in the other side of the street because I don't want to do anything that they feel that I could be a threat. And that's it. In that moment, I was a threat. I was a reporter that was going out all the time. So I was a threat for those guys. They have some health issues. So that's why they're using the astronauts. But tell the stories and try in a way to not cause any harm for them, you know. I don't know if I have the COVID in that moment or not. It's quite complicated, but we work out.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Now remember, if you have any questions for Mauro or any of the presenters, you can definitely put it in the comment section. There's a chat box. You can put it there and we are going to make sure your question is answered. Now from Brazil, we come to the continent, we come to Africa, and we have Berhan Bahlbi, who is a communications officer. He works at the British Embassy in Asmara, and he enjoys organizing and also documenting events. Now prior, he worked with the Ministry of Information as a journalist and also as a reporter at the English desk in Eritrean television. He has worked in several organizations in variety of roles, including a teacher, a lecturer, a publications officer, and also a communications consultant for the United Nations and Agriculture Organization. So welcome, Berhan.
Thank you, Thierry, for that introduction. So I'll just go straight into my presentation. The first picture that you're looking at was taken on 18 April 2020. It was the first flight out of Eritrea after the lockdown was instated on 25th March. So it took a long time to really organize the flight, working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, working with the Ethiopian Airlines who were willing to work, who were willing to bring a plane in. Other airlines were not willing. And then, of course, a private travel and tour operator to lease the plane, and 5 other embassies in Eritrea. So it took a little over 3 weeks, and I spearheaded organizing that flight. So once it was taxiing on the airport, on Asmara International Airport, I took this picture. It gave a lot of satisfaction, even though there was a pandemic. The second picture, thank you, Terry, is 1 year, exactly 11 months later. We had a reception for few of the members of the other missions who also organized flights after our first flight on 18 April 2020. The other missions, the other embassies in Asmara also organized flights. So towards March 2021, we organized a reception, and then we had this lovely cakes for them. So this picture was taken then. We were celebrating the events. Thank you. The street that you're looking at is called Martyrs Avenue. It's the second biggest street in Asmara. And this picture was taken on the 23rd of May 2020. Normally, May is an independence month in Asmara, and people really go out to celebrate. And this on May 23, 2020, as you can see, it's empty. There's only one lady to the left. It has never been like this for the past 30 years. So that's why I took this picture. I was driving about coming back from work, and then I saw it very empty, and I said, I have to take this picture because this has never happened in the history of Eritrea for the past 30 years. But because of COVID, people had to be indoors. The lockdown was in full effect at the time. The next picture, this one was taken, as you can see, on the 20th June 2020. 20 June is the year, the day that Eritrea normally remembers its martyrs with the candlelight vigil in the main streets of Asmara. This has happened for the past 30 years. However, as you can see in 2020, there was a lockdown and it was not possible to do that. So the National Holiday Coordinating Committee, they organized for singers to record their music and poems. And now it was the singers' time trying to sing and record it, and then of course to be broadcasted on television later. So a friend at the National Holiday Coordinating Committee invited me, and then I showed him this picture. I took this picture. Thank you. The next one, this one is my home garden. As you can see, it's pumpkin. I don't know for those of you who know. So we because there was a lot of time in our hands, my wife Hermon and my boys, they really love gardening, and they took into the garden, and they worked hard, and it paid off. As you can see, we had so many pumpkin in the garden that we can share with many people. Thank you. Next picture. Yeah, this this is a friend's Mercedes-Benz 190. It's a very, very good, strong car. My friend was in Italy. He couldn't come back because of the lockdown. So he parked it here before he left, before the lockdown. And then when he was there, and then he asked me how the car was. So I took a picture. I had the chance to go to where he's parked it. It was in another friend's house. So the birds had redecorated his Mercedes-Benz. And I took this picture, and it was really nice, a real explanation of what had happened because of the lockdown. No movement was allowed. So it was really, really tough for people to do their everyday chores. Thank you, Brittany. This is a picture of Easter 2021. And in Easter, as Eritrea is both Christian and Muslim country, 50% of the population is Christian and 50% Muslim. So for Easter, people slaughter sheep, different kinds of cattle. Even though the lockdown was in effect and it was not lifted, it was eased a bit. People were gathering in such mass because nobody could stop them. I mean, you just can't stop a determined crowd to share to do whatever they want on their beliefs. So I just took this picture. I went with a couple of friends to buy sheep myself. Next picture. This picture was taken in May 2021. The students that you're looking at in front of you are graduating from a 4-month training who studied designing makeup and costume. Part of my role at the British Embassy is also program delivery. So I worked with some stakeholders to do this training. So they were supposed to graduate in April 2020, but the lockdown happened on March 25th, 2020. So it was delayed by a year. All students are hearing impaired. There were about 27 students. And in May 2021, we organized an event at the British residence, and it was really a happy moment. And I took this picture during that ceremony. All the clothes that they are wearing, they designed it by themselves. They did all the embroidery in front, as you can see. And then after their graduation happened, they performed a pantomime drama. All 27 hearing impaired young students performed a pantomime drama, and this picture was taken while they were doing this pantomime drama. And this is the last picture. This is my kids, both in the yellow jumpers are my kids, in the red jumpers, and in the middle, the nice young lady is a neighbor. Because they were sitting at home and doing not much, they took painting as a favorite pastime. And ever since then, they have just taken that painting as a hobby. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. It's so interesting that your pictures, they tell the everyday story, like what is happening every day. And what I love about the pictures is that they make us feel connected. Like, the empty streets, I think it was like that everywhere. So as much as there was this pandemic going on, it's almost like we all experienced the same thing. But I would like to know, have the restrictions been lifted in your country, or are people still social distancing and wearing masks?
Yeah, the restrictions, I couldn't say lifted, but they've been eased. So people still wear masks. They're supposed to wear masks, even though some don't. If you're caught, you'll be fined about $6 per person, I guess. But the social distancing, not much, honestly. I mean, we go to bars, restaurants, and cafes, and we sit in 3s, 4s these days. But it has been eased a lot, but it's not lifted yet. And there's a curfew at 11 p.m. Yeah.
All
Things
right.
close at 11 p.m. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your pictures. All right, so now we're going to move to Indonesia, and we have Binsar. Binsar Bakkara is both a freelance journalist and a photo stringer for the Associated Press, which is he's based in Medan in Indonesia. Now, living in a country that's frequently rocked by earthquakes and volcanoes, Binsar is familiar with covering disasters, and as such, the 2004 mega tsunami that killed more than 200,000 people along the coast of the Indian Ocean. Now, he's active in covering many issues: conflict, impact, environmental damage, human rights violations, and also daily life. Now, specific coverage includes justice against workers in an oil plantation and also endangered pangolins due to forest destruction. So welcome to you, Binsar.
Hi, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening from Indonesia. Thank you for giving me time to present my photo that I made during the pandemic. When the first time I heard about the disease that now named COVID-19, it brought my memory back to 16 years ago when I covering bird flu that killed 6 people in my province, North Sumatra, Indonesia. That's why since the beginning, I was so worried about the impact of the spreading of this coronavirus. But I was not surprised even when the virus finally was found infected someone in Indonesia and finally took the victims in my hometown. Like everywhere in the beginning, there were so many denial to the COVID-19 here. There were so many conspiracy theory and hoax about it, even in my own social environment. Then I heard that in my hometown, there was a newly opened cemetery allocated for the victim of COVID-19. So I went there. I saw new graves. In my humble opinion, I thought it is very important to tell people through my pictures that COVID-19 is real and has victims in our hometown. In cemetery, I did a little observation and I found a safe place to take picture. I didn't have protective gear like hazmat clothes. I just had face mask and hand sanitizer. I also live with my family in same house. So this is not only about my safety. That's why I thought that I have to be extra careful. The first picture in my gallery is a family watching from the distance the burial of their relative on April 2020. And the second one is a burial on July 2021. We can see how fast the growth. And now, today, there are more than 1,500 graves there. Our government made a number of policies to prevent the spread of COVID-19. One of them is physical distancing. People were encouraged to work from home. But in fact, not everybody can do their work from home. In third picture, please. I met with this old man, a motor pedicab driver, who told me that he didn't get any money for days because no one ordered his service. Thinking that the story about him is too local to be published in Wire, like AP, I just put his picture in my Facebook and with a brief narration. Out of my expectation, an Indonesian woman who lives in Saudi Arabia told me that she wants to send donation to the old man, and she did. In the grassroots, I was seeing solidarity in this difficult situation. There were some people distributing masks in the street, foods, and other basic needs to people with low economic level who can't do their usual business due to the restriction. Fourth picture, please. I even met with a farmer who came to Medan Zoo to donate fruits from their garden. The zoo management asked for donation publicly after they closed the zoo and no income to buy food for animals. Fifth picture, please. This policeman from mobile brigade unit spraying disinfectant in a government building. Besides of restriction, the government official also sprayed disinfectants in many places such as government building, trains, even streets. Honestly, I'm not sure if this effort was effective or had been too far. 6th picture, please. In the street, public order agency stopped people who didn't wear face masks, gave them masks, and sometimes gave them punishment. There was city regulation about this. In my 7th picture is our governor received his first dose vaccine. The government also campaigned the vaccine. Besides showing that the vaccine is safe, the government granted that the vaccine is halal. Halal is a condition so that something is allowed to be consumed by a Muslim, including vaccine. More than 90% of our population are Muslims. Next picture, please. After I and my family got vaccine, I tried to find access to take picture from inside the hospital, but I was just allowed to take picture from outside of an observation tent. I took many pictures when the streets were so quiet as local government made partial isolation when most part of our town was declared as a red zone. But situation is not always like that. And it was not in everywhere. In this picture, we can see students demonstrated in front of House of Representative building during the pandemic. Today, the life in my country almost back to normal with some small restriction. In public space like meeting hall, hospital, public transport, people are still required to wear masks. But in open air like in the street and city gardens, many people don't wear face masks anymore. I met this girl a month ago, a day before last Ramadan in COVID-19 cemetery. She prays in front of her father's graves. I only saw few visitors wearing masks there. During this recent Eid al-Fitr, the government allowed the people to gather back to their village to meet family, something that was forbidden along 2 years previous. I really hope we have learned something important from this pandemic for the future of human being and the environment. And that is my presentation. Thank you for listening and make this happen.
Oh, thank you so much, Binsar. It's so interesting that your pictures just spark every kind of emotion. Some of them are funny, the one that guys were getting punishment. Some of them are also very powerful, where your work has actually made someone, change someone's life, So it was an excellent exhibition. Thank you so much. Maybe the only question probably I'd have for now is, how has COVID affected you personally?
Actually, this COVID affected me hardly because I lost a cousin and an auntie because of this COVID. I also have to look after my sisters in my own house during the pandemic. So it's very hard, but the life must go on.
Wow, I'm so sorry about your loss, Binsar, but thank you so much for sharing your images. All right, so now we come back to, again, continent Africa. We go to Zambia, Lusaka, and in Lusaka we have Tenson. Tenson Mkhala is a journalist and also a photojournalist who has been in this profession for more than 10 years. Now, he's a versatile news reporter with many journalistic skills and also has a bias for photography. Tenson studied journalism and public relations and has worked for a number of media organizations, including Zambia Daily Mail, which is the government media house, Books, and also Yastani Radio, New Vision newspapers, the Post newspaper, and recently, Tenson won the Best Photojournalist in Public Health in 2021. So welcome, Tenson.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So this picture was taken in 2020. It's showing the health workers trying to prepare the COVID vaccine. This was done after there was a debate of the shortage of vaccine in the country, and a lot of people were unable to access the vaccines. And so I took this picture basically to show that we had these vaccines. As you can see, the medical health workers are trying to prepare so that they can give the public, they can have these vaccines. Maybe next picture, please. So I try to catch up with time. So this picture, basically I took this picture, a boy playing. This was after the schools had closed for a longer period of time. And so this boy, they were not allowed to be spending time outside, but this boy was able to sneak out, and this is in the streets where he is playing alone. As you can see, even the kind of the face mask he's putting on. Next picture. So the COVID-19 levels were increasing in the country, and here the doctors had to abandon their works and they went into the protest demanding for better condition of service. And so we saw a number of the patients dying because these doctors had to protest for about 4 days, and there were no one to attend to them, to the patients who were affected with COVID-19. Next picture. So this is a picture that I got of the passengers trying who were traveling to another part of the country. And here there were doctors who were positioned on the border of the two towns. As you can see, health worker trying to detect the temperature of these passengers, a mother there with her 2 kids, and a nurse checking the temperature, the body temperatures. And here, once your body temperature is high, you are not required to proceed in your journey. You are actually stopped here and monitored until your body temperature levels are normal. Next picture. So there was a debate in the country that the government ministers were not going for vaccine, and they were only telling the ordinary people to access the vaccine. And so the debate was on, as the ordinary people were saying, the citizen was saying, why are government ministers failing to access vaccine? Why are they shunning? Why are they refusing? And so we see the minister then demonstrating that there is nothing wrong with taking the vaccine. Hence, we see this minister. I got this picture. This was the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure then, trying to show to the public that there was nothing wrong with the vaccine, as he is demonstrating taking the vaccine. Next picture. This is one of my good picture. I took this picture in a remote of this country. Here is it's a class. As you can see, pupils are writing. They had difficulties in accessing the face mask, and so there were no social distancing. They were learning without face masks, which was a danger to their health. Next picture, please. Comparing to this picture, I took this picture. This is an urban area in the capital city of Zambia. And here it's a school. It was an opening day. And as you can see, pupils are putting on a face mask, waiting to get into class for them to be ready to to start learning. Unlike the previous picture, you can see the differences. That other picture, the previous picture, pupils were unable to access face masks. But here, so there was a debate that the government was only concentrating to distribute face masks to schools that are in urban areas, and they were doing away with schools in the rural areas. Next picture, please. I took this picture of two girls playing in rainwater. They had no any other recreation because schools had closed for a longer period of time, and so could find these kids sneaking out from their parents' houses, go out and find ways of how they can entertain themselves. And here they were enjoying themselves without face mask, and it was a bit hazardous to their life as well. Next picture, please. Wow, the government had put a mandatory wearing of face mask, and anyone who would be found without a face mask was supposed to serve a jail sentence of 6 months. And here there's a parent, a father, a mother, and two children on the bus station waiting for public transport. And so I took these pictures because in this street, most of the people were shunning away from wearing face masks. And so I took advantage of this picture because it was one way of even educating the people the importance of wearing face masks. Next pictures, I don't know. Wow. So this woman is was preparing some fruits for those patients who were in isolation due to COVID-19. She gave herself, she would go in the bush, collect these fruits because there was even shortage of food for the patients. So she would take care of the kids that had their parents in isolation. She would collect these fruits from the bush and go around to distribute to those kids who had their parents in isolation. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Tenson, for your pictures. Very powerful as well. And I like the fact that today it almost feels like the theme is educational, you know, the pictures that create awareness and as well as educate people, whether it's the importance of using masks or just protecting themselves. So thank you very much, Tenson. But I'm curious to know, how is the situation right now in your country in regards to COVID?
Okay, currently the COVID levels have gone down. At least people are following the laid down procedures, and the restrictions have been easy. I think life is becoming to normal now. We can see there is free movement, there's free doing business, schools are operating normally, offices have been opened. So I think we are getting back to a normal life with of course, a normal way of living with this COVID-19.
Well, thank you so much, and we really appreciate you. Now, remember, if you have any questions, you can just type the questions in the chat box. And you know, there is a question from Megan from World Learning, and I think I'll invite you, Megan, to ask your question to everyone.
Thank you, Terry. I'm not really camera ready, so I'm going to leave my camera off. But, well, this is a question for some of our earlier presenters in particular. I think Binsar and Mauro in particular had mentioned disinformation around COVID-19. And I'm just curious if you could tell us a little bit more about how you think your work, your images might counter disinformation, conspiracies, fake news, that sort of thing. And thank you all, you did fantastic, great work.
I think it's what I'm trying to find every day. Yeah, so I don't know, just tell what's happening, what you see, the stories you find, but how it's gonna like beat the disinformation, the fake news, especially here this year that we're gonna have national elections. It's something we are learning every day. I don't have an answer, no. it's something we are trying every day, like I think every journalist.
I really understand that nowadays the journalist responsibility is more because journalists need to counter hoax, not only to present news. So in COVID case, when there is so many conspiracy theory and hoax, like issue that people who get vaccine will become a zombie, or the old people who get vaccine will die. So when I heard information that elderly will soon got vaccine in a hospital, I went there and I take picture. I want to show that the hoax is not true, and the information is wrong. So I take the picture when the elderly got vaccine. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Binsar, for your take when it comes to dealing with fake news and how you use your images to make sure that the right information is out there. I think maybe Tenson, you can let us know whether COVID-19 has affected you personally and how that experience has been.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, COVID-19 has really affected me personally because I've lost a number of relatives. I've lost my uncle, my aunties, I think 4 of them due to COVID-19. And work-wise, because at some point I was also affected. I got affected during my duties, and I was in isolation for 2 weeks, and the experience was just bad. And so it has really affected me, and it has left a huge impact in our family because we've lost about 4 members of the families who are breadwinners for our family. And so it has really affected me and my family. Yeah.
Well, we're so sorry to hear that, Tenson. Yeah, it's quite the situation, but we're very sad to hear about that. Maybe Berhan, you could answer the same.
Yeah, COVID-19, yes, has affected me too. A lot of people that I know have passed, not very close family members, but some friends who are older than me. But also the economic aspect has also been worse. I mean, people were not able to go to work, and that has also affected a lot of people I know, much more. I mean, because the lockdown didn't allow movement. So for those of the people that make their living from hand to mouth on an everyday basis, it was difficult. So it has affected a lot of people in the country. But also death. Yes, a lot of people have died. I mean, a lot of people I know have died, and because I know a lot of people because of my work and as a journalist in the past. So you hear things, so and so has died, so and so has, and the numbers were going up. So it has been bad, and the economic impact was also have been much more worse for people. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your stories. Please keep the questions coming on the chat. And we have a question from Bonnie.
Thank you, Terry. I do have a question, and I'm going to do what I asked everyone else not to do, which is to make it a double-barreled question. Actually, I have a question in general for all of you, and it's a little bit related to the question of trust, which Mauro, you addressed to some extent. Do the people that you photograph, do they know you're taking their images? Do you speak to them? How do you know, do they know before they're published that they will be in an image that may be public? That's part of it. The second question is related to law enforcement and how receptive law enforcement has been to your taking these images that you do.
So
and it's open to everybody.
Okay, yeah. Maybe let me start. I think that's a very good question. Like those two pictures of the pupils, I think it was a challenge for me to go into the classes. Those are government classes, to go and capture and show if the schools are abiding to the putting on of the face masks as pupils were being taught. It was a difficult moment. I had to go a lot of bureaucracy, Minister of Education, just for me to get a clearance. It was a bit difficult, but at the end of the day, I was given a clearance to capture those. For the minister, like the one I got for the minister, it was really, really difficult. The minister didn't even want to be captured. But at the end of the day, we tried to convince the minister to say, look, there is a debate that you government workers are failing, are refusing to take this. So now if we don't publish, we don't show you taking this vaccine, how are they going to believe? They will start shunning like you are doing. So at the end of the day, the minister was able to allow me to get those pictures. So it wasn't easy because like in this country, there are a lot of procedures for one just to capture a moment like this time of COVID-19. It's very difficult. But at the end of the day, we try by all means, because at the end of the day, we need to tell the stories. So it has been difficult even to the law enforcement. It has been hell, but at the end of the day, we try to convince them that we need to show to the world how we are managing the COVID-19. Thank you.
Go next. I've taken a few pictures of people in them, and in a couple of those pictures, I have asked permission before we took them, and they were willing to be photographed, and we have shared those pictures on Facebook, on the official embassy Facebook page. Other than that, if the people are not identified, like the Easter market picture, nobody minds, even though this picture has not been published anywhere. So if people are being identified, I ask for permission. I tell them that this picture will be published, and they agree, so that we go ahead. If not, I just don't take the picture. When it comes to law enforcement, I've never came across law enforcement with the pictures that I took that I have seen with the other presenters. I don't have those kind of pictures, but if you ask permission, they'll just tell you no or okay. So I've never reached that stage.
Oh yeah, thank you. For me, it's very important to close to the subject of the picture first before I take the picture. But it's not always. In some case, like in public area, if it's in public area and it's for journalism, I think I don't always need to take permission. But but for some case, maybe to get more information about the subject, I approach and talk a lot. And then I take the pictures. In this COVID era, it's difficult to talk to the subject of the picture because physical distancing requiring. So like in the cemetery, I don't have to get permission to the people there, but I try for not showing their face and just the worker. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
More or less the same as Binsar, like depending of the story, like the astronauts, or for example the guy that I shot getting the vaccine inside his house. Of course I had the authorization, I had to talk a lot, but in a cemetery or in a protest or law enforcement, like my first photo, law enforcement will never give authorization to show things they do wrong, you know. So sometimes journalists just do what you think what you learn, you know, in university, in your life, that thing it's important for the society, and that's it. And just trust your guts and what you learn in university, you know.
And I guess my question wasn't totally clear because the question about law enforcement was, are they receptive to your taking pictures? Not necessarily of them, but of anything. They're not. Yeah. Okay. That
Never.
Yeah.
But we still do.
Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Same for you, Binsar.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you guys. We have a question from my Nemo from Cameroon. I don't know if my Nemo you'd like to ask the question. All right. Well, I guess I can ask the question for you. So they're asking whether you were restricted from getting into some areas, and how do you manage that? Besides, the fact that you have an obligation to tell a story. So how do you navigate the fact that there's some areas that you're not allowed to go?
But like what? Sorry, like hospital. I mean, yeah. Try to find another hospital that gives you the authorization. No, that you have to negotiate all the time, like in COVID, because of course, the problem of the COVID. That's why the story, we had a lot of restrictions, and these restrictions they have a reason. So you have to explain for places that have the restriction, like hospitals, a lot about your work, and that you know how to protect yourself. In the beginning, nobody knows, so it was fair to have some restrictions. But with time, just keep sources, like good contacts, that when you see that has a opportunity to do what you want to do, that you think it's important for society, people are ready to give you the access, because you are developing that contact, that source a long time ago,
And during this period, did any of you experience any sort of harassment while you were trying to do your work? Binsar, maybe?
During this period, luckily I didn't get any harassment. Maybe because it's not a conflict, and I always negotiate, and I don't force my lucky. I don't force my what I want to do. So when I tried to approach the hospital management to take picture from inside, when they didn't allow me. So I can understand, because they explained that it's to risk. But even I know that in another town, the hospital allowed the journalists to be inside. So I don't force them.
Yeah, like
Right.
COVID related, I didn't have any problem. Like we had a lot of harassment and problems with the present related with politics, because we have really almost a hardcore right-wing president now, and so he really hates press in all forms. So those supporters hate press as well. So it's more this kind of harassment, like people threatening you. It's more related with politics, not COVID so much.
Okay. We also have Selam Araya, who would like to ask a question. Would you like to ask the question, Selam?
Yeah, sure. I wanted to know from all of them, what inspired or provoked you to take these pictures?
But before let me also answer in the previous my Nemo's question. Sometimes you take pictures not just for publishing them, but taking pictures is history. You document it. It's very important. You do something, and then it has to be documented. You know, it might be restricted. You might face some persecution, but you still have to take pictures. The pictures that might not be allowed in, let's say, airports, that picture, or the Easter market. It can be tough, but that needs to be recorded and documented, whether if it's going to be published now. Of course, news has to be timely, but it's also important to document. For that purpose, you just have to trust your guts, as Mauro has put it, and take the picture, even though you might not use it the next day. For the second question, what inspired you, provoked you? For me, it's always documentation. You have to document it, even though pictures can say more, can say a lot. but the documenting it, keeping it as a record is very important. But the different place that provokes you, it's history, because you have to record history. That's how we know about history. That's how we know about history 100 years old or before that. So it's important to record them. That's what always inspires me, taking pictures and capturing the moment also. When something happens, I have to capture that moment. Thank you.
Yeah, I think let me answer the question of what inspires me. I think for me, it's a sensitization. I still believe there are a lot of people in my country that do not believe that COVID exists. And so by taking those pictures, by showing those pictures, I want them to change their mindset, to see to it that the reality is that COVID is real. People are dying. And by showing those pictures, they have to take COVID-19 serious. So for me, basically, is sensitization. And of course, like what my colleague has said, it's also for documentation, for history's sake. So that's what inspires me. Thank you.
Right. I think I have to say thank you, everyone, for sharing this. It was so excellent, and the pictures are so powerful, and the stories that come with the pictures are even more powerful. So thank you so much. And I think right now I'll head it back to Bonnie.
Thank you, Terry. Before you hand it back to me, Mauro or Binsar, did you want to respond to that? What inspires you?
Oh, okay. What provoked me is to inform, because I know the basic job of journalism is to inform. And I understand that picture is another kind of words. So I inform by pictures. And I want to correct the wrong information by pictures. So and documenting is the second one. For me, inform is the first one. And in this COVID era, I think my photo is not enough to document. It's just to it's need to tell people so that they understand what happened. And because if this time I only documenting, I'm not different with the CCTV, so just recording. So I want to show, I want to correct, I want to inform. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'm just lucky enough to pay my bills being a photographer, and because what I called to the job was to document, like Binsar said, and to inform people at the moment what's happening for the moment and for the future, to stay for who is coming in the future, And I love history. I always want to teach history or work in some kind of history related, but I found that photojournalism was my way to do history, and lucky enough to have a salary to do it.
Excellent. I wonder if how many history classes are taught through photographic textbooks. Be interesting. Brittany, you actually asked the question. Why don't you ask the question?
Yeah, I was curious to Mauro, how you managed to build that trust with your with the astronauts, and that's a bigger question generally as a photojournalist. In order to capture those shots, you have to get the trust. So, what are some of your techniques that you use when you do that?
I don't know, just be really open of what you want to do and why. That's it. Or you're gonna have a positive answer, or you're gonna go and just say no straight. So I always try to explain, and most of the time people don't know what it is, a newswire service, so I had to explain where I'm working, where the photos are going, how it's gonna be published. and just be as true as possible. Just explain, look, I'm a photojournalist, and that's it. I don't know, it's quite simple in my mind, you know. I don't know if it's so simple. I just explain. I try to find the contact, try to talk directly with the characters, you know, and not have someone in a middleman, you know, to do the contact. I go directly, try to find the characters and explain how I'm gonna do, what we're gonna do, how it's gonna be published, and most of the time people trust, you know, just look in the eyes and talk.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
We just want to thank you all. I mean, you folks are heroes to all of us. You know, without your work, we really would not know what goes on. Your images are powerful, your stories are powerful, and we just really thank you so much. I would like the people in the audience to just take a moment, take a deep breath, and in just 1 or 2 words, throw into chat how you feel now that you've watched these images come in from, what, 3 continents I think we're working with today. Just give us a sense of where you are, how you feel, what your emotion is as a result of having done this. And again, to the 4 presenters and to Terry, you did a great job. Thank you so much. Again, we are here the first Thursday of each month. I think most of our programs are live going out. Britt, you can verify that. So if you're new, I know some of you are new to today's program, so we will be here next month with 4 more amazing stories. Britt, over to you.
Wonderful. Yes, as Bonnie said, thank you all so much. And also great thoughts from folks in the audience. Power of humanity, inspired and thankful, connected with the sharing. People love seeing what you share. So bye everyone in the audience, except for our IVLP folks.